Welcome back, everyone, to another Company Fears 2 replay cast. This time we are going to have a 2v2 sent in by Guard2707 playing as the UKF. His friend Brasras is going to play as the Soviets. They're going to spawn in the north of Minsk Pocket. His enemies are going to be X-Sun playing as the OKW and Neo Reactionary, of course, playing as the OKW. And yeah, Minsk Pocket, very interesting map. Although not really my favorite, especially for 2v2s. A bit of a your number one 2v2 team. I did not know that. Interesting. So apparently Guard and Brasras are indeed number one. I knew that they were very high, but I didn't know that they were number one. Interesting. So we do see a trench going up already. Definitely wants to defend his fuel point. Although we have to remember that Minsk Pocket, you do have the possibility of cutting off the fuel by taking both the strategic points near the base. And, well, that kind of makes it so you have to always be mindful of all of the flanks of the map, just because you might just have someone sneaking around trying to capture your real line. Very nicely, these Storm Pioneers are actually trying to get themselves a little bit closer to the American base, the Allied base, as they perhaps like. So indeed, the infantry section does decide to fire on the Storm Piles. First engagement, nothing too major. Second Storm Pioneer squad, they're going to catch out the infantry section from a guard and deals one casualty on it. Nothing too major. Also, the other infantry section getting caught a little bit too close to the Storm Piles. Going to be forcing the Storm Pioneers to retreat thanks to the support of this conscript. So good coordination there from the two allied players. The two Germans seem to be focusing a little bit more on the southern part of the map. So far, not really managing to do all that much at it. Ally is definitely getting the upper hand in terms of map control for now. But the Germans do have their fuel points secured at least, so they're going to have an easy time. Looks like at least getting their tier 1 and tier 2s. We do know that the longer the game goes, so it's going to be a little bit harder for Brasras, but I have faith in him. He's a good Soviet player. Right now, nicely going with a Universal Carrier to counter the Storm Piles in the north from Guard. Storm Pioneers not going to be able to do much against the infantry section and Universal Carrier combo. Right now, the trench over here, of course, it is a British one, so it cannot be stolen by the Germans. Unfortunately, there isn't really anybody covering that area. There is a couple of... Well, there are a couple of infantry squads from the Soviet player, but they're going to get forced away by the two Folks Rangers supporting the Storm Piles. Storm Piles, unfortunately, going to be gunned down at close range by the infantry section, or, well, infantry squad. They definitely need to retreat, though. Very close, very lucky to escape that. He should have definitely retreated earlier. Interesting that Guard didn't go for a MG. I would have thought that with Minsk Pocket being so open and with the trench going up, a machine gun, sorry for that. Damn, that wasn't expected. Yeah, I would have expected a machine gun to go up in this trench. So the Vicar is not really coming out, partially, I think, because he got the Universal Carrier as a response to what was happening in the north. And unfortunately, this infantry squad is going to go down. Bit of a miss micro because he was kind of busy in the center. Is he going to go down? Because the Storm Piles are also getting miss microed. Very, very lucky for that to escape. If the Storm Piles had chased, I think the infantry section would have definitely gone down. But alas, it didn't, and so very nice for Guard. He gets to keep his squad. Right now, there is a Royal Engineer on the field for him, but it's trying to at least support the infantry in its fight. Right now, the Germans have managed to capture pretty much most of the south of the map. Engineers are in a very conspicuous position. I would have thought that they were planting down a mine. Seems like the Storm Piles kind of have the same suspicion and they don't go into that area, but the Folks Rangers actually don't care. Okay, so he knows that there was no mine there, although I would have been at least a little bit careful for that, because that looked like he was setting up a mine, at least from a bird's eye view. Very nice usage of the Brain Carrier, taking out these Storm Piles. This is exactly what that Brain Carrier was bought for, and it's exactly what it's doing pretty well. Storm Piles trying to get around it, but the Brain Carrier has none of that and retreats back to the corner, thus sort of nullifying the advantage of the infantry trying to get around it. Right now, it looks like these conscripts are going to get a little bit mauled by the Storm Piles, but the Storm Piles also taking quite a bit of damage, so not really quite sure as to who won that. We do see that there was Arcane River, which didn't have the prioritized vehicles on, so it did reveal itself firing at the sandbags with the conscripts behind them. Not exactly the best way to reveal that you have an AC piece. Right now, this is going to discourage Brothers from going with any kind of early light vehicles. Guard 2, to be honest, he does have the tier 2, and he doesn't have the AEC upgrade, but he could have been thinking about that if he didn't see that Recannonwerfer. Of course, Recannonwerfer also going to be useful against the Universal Carrier, which is now getting repaired in base. There was an upgrade coming in the Bolster Infantry Squads, actually, so increased sizes for infantry sections. Interesting, he's going to go for another infantry section. So going very heavy on the infantry side, not something I see every day with the British. We'll see how that goes. I mean, he doesn't have any upgrades yet for his infantry because he doesn't really have a lot of munitions. He spent most of his on upgrading that Vickers K mount on the Bren carrier. So for a while, he won't have any Brens or the likes to actually make his infantry a little bit more effective. He's going to go for some medkits. No artillery so far. But of course, before the second gun goes up, the artillery isn't really all that useful. And yes, I wonder really what he wants to be doing with that. That was very, very early for that Bolster Infantry Squads. He definitely wants a little bit more presence on the field. And so far, that's something that they need. Right now, they have more income than the Germans, but that's because they cut off the left side of the map with that very nice snipe on the munitions point. Although, I think that overall, in terms of points held, the Germans are a little bit above the Allies. Nicely using the suppression on the Vickers K for the Universal Carrier, taking out those two infantry squads from the fight. Of course, they couldn't really have done much against the UC anyway, mostly because of the fact that they're just Sturmpiles. There is also a Volksgrenadier in the area and another Recannonwerfer from a Neo Reactionary, adding up to the one from Exsudden. So the two Recannonwerfers are going to definitely prove a bit of a challenge for this Universal Carrier to deal with. Although, really, there's a lot of infantry on the Allied side, and now a mortar on the field for Brostras. Very, very nice purchase from Brostras, because that mortar is going to be very useful against any kind of support weapons, especially the Recannonwerfers. If they're trying to get a beat on the Universal Carrier, they're going to have to stand still a little bit, thus exposing themselves to the mortar. Also, yeah, in general, it seems like the Germans are just focusing a little bit too hard, maybe, on the southern side of the map, but also they're doing some pretty good work. Nice usage of the Storm Pioneers to cut off the point over here. So right side of the map, still under control of the Allies, but I think it's cut off. It doesn't show as cut off, but it is cut off. Yes, indeed it is. Okay, also right now being a little bit of a nuisance in the south side with a few capturing moves. Nice usage of the wire, although I think that these sappers are going to get caught out by the Volksgrenadiers. So yes, letting forces retreat and into the mine. 2 casualties. Of course, mine can't deal more than 2 casualties in one explosion. So the squad is actually saved. If that had been before the patch that nerfed that, then that infantry squad would have definitely gone down. So very lucky that that wasn't the case. Right now, the Germans are definitely pushing up basically in the entire map, and that's good because right now the Allies are a little bit on the back foot, and they're going to have to do something in order to actually regain their footing a little bit and get themselves back into this game. I would definitely think that a little bit more of a coordinated push onto one area of the map would be good, because I think that the Allies are doing a little bit of a mistake in separating so much. As you can see, the British player have a little bit of a presence on the right side. The Soviets have a little bit of a presence on the right side. Both players have a presence in the center, and on the left side, there's some British infantry sections and the Universal Carrier fighting around the fuel and the VP. Of course, if these forces were a little bit more concentrated on one area of the map, I think that the Allies would have a little bit of an easier time actually winning engagements, which so far they seem to be having the biggest issue with, because they're doing fairly fine on map control and how they're essentially moving their units around the map, but they're having problems with the actual winning of engagements. Right now, finally, the wire has gone up and has been completed, so that's going to be a bit of an extra obstacle for the Germans, but they do have the Minesweeper and support package that can cut through the wire quite easily, so nothing too major for the Germans. Right now, there is a support gun on the field for Neo Reactionary. That's going to be very, very effective against what Brossos is bringing in. They do have a few support weapons that are kind of vulnerable. In general, the conscripts blobbing up a little bit too hard are going to be vulnerable as well to that support gun, and especially the AT gun is a prime target for that unit. It's quite useful to take that out. There is a second supply hatcher coming in from him, so he's going to have a Schwer Panzer headquarters, I think, going up around this area of the map to protect the fuel and the victory point maybe as well. Depends on how bold he wants to be. Here comes another incendiary grenade from Sudden, getting some damage on the trench, but the Royal Engineers actually getting out of the trench are going to mean that not a lot of damage is actually done to the units from Guard. Guard does have a bit of a surplus of resources. He has 450 manpower and 125 fuel. There goes the Universal Carrier from a Stuka strike. Interesting. So X-Sudden going for that, and immediately getting a kill right off the bat. Also taking out the trench, so pretty good first barrage. 2 kills, but 2 valuable ones at that. Nothing too bad out of him. We'll see if he can still use that thing consistently, because really that's the biggest problem with artillery units. After the first time you attack, the enemies are going to be much more wary about your barrages coming in, especially once they hear the sound of the Stuka. The Stuka is quite loud at that, so not really going to be as easy to get devastating shots from that. Right now, it looks like the Germans are trying to make a bit of a push for the fuel, but they're getting thwarted by a force of Soviet infantry. In the meantime, on the right side, we do have the infantry sections from Guard trying to at least keep control of their VP. Interestingly, that the Allies have control of the right side VP and the Germans over the left side, mostly because, well, usually you'd see the opposite happening, so that's weird. Very, very weird indeed. And what I also like is the fact that finally Guard has sent something to the left side to capture that VP. And that's kind of weird, because you'd think that Brosras would be going for that with, for example, this Combat Engineer Squad, but they were busy building his Mechanized Armor Compagnia. So he's going to have the Katyusha on the field soon enough. I'm at least guessing that he's going to go for a Katyusha because of what the Germans are going for, with lots of soft targets, lots of infantry, and a couple of support weapons as well. The Katyusha would be good for that. Also, because the Germans have the Stuka, getting a bit of a counter to that would be decent. And the Katyusha can do some counter battery against the Stuka if it is quick. After the Stuka fires, if the Katyusha quickly retaliates, then it can do some damage to it. Here comes the barrage. Looks like on the mortars. Mortars are going to be forced to retreat anyway by the Sturmpios. Here comes the barrage. Actually hits the retreating squad and takes it out. Hits also the conscripts. Aids in the destruction of that conscript squad. In the meantime, the Allies are pushing in the center. Their infantry is swarming through and trying to at least do some damage to the Germans in retaliation. One of the mortars is going to be recaptured by some combat engineers. There's also a demo charge there, which is very interesting. Right now, the infantry from the Allies has managed to win the engagement in the center, and on the right side, the Allies still have full control over that area, so they're going to get the VP benefits from having that as well. Right now, they do have half of their VP reserves depleted, so not really all that good of a situation for the Allies in terms of the VPs. Looks like the Germans had a bit of a trouble cap at some point, because in 15 minutes, so many VPs being bled by the Allies pretty much means that they had a triple cap imposed on them. But at the same time, it seems like the Allies have a bit of a decent grasp on the map right now. It depends. So we do have the Katyusha coming in from Brosras. As expected, there is a sniper from Guard. It's been picking off the Germans a little bit in these last few minutes, and it is indeed a very, very good idea to go for a sniper when the enemy has so many Sturmpire squads and also Obersoldaten on the field. So the sniper are going to be very, very effective against those high-value targets. Picks off another Obersoldaten. Of course, because the sniper is indeed so very effective at taking out units that are individually valuable, they are very expensive to reinforce by the member. then the Germans are also going to be trying to do something against the sniper. Now, very good job from the Germans taking both the left side cutoff point and the right side cutoff point. This is exactly what we were talking about, completely surrounding the fuel in the center, and in fact completely cutting off the allies in general from any points, except the stand. Actually, no, they're cut off from that too. So, in general, very good move from the Germans. The Katyusha right now hasn't fired yet, and here comes the Stuka. Stuka firing on the mortars once again, doing a bit of damage, but not as much as it could have. In fact, very nearly takes out the demo charge. That would have been quite a bummer from the Stuka because, well, of course, 90 munitions is nothing to laugh at, especially when your munitions income is 6. Right now, it looks like these infantry sections are going to be able to take out the... no, they retreat, just to be safe. And right now, the Germans have complete control over the map. The Katyusha absolutely needs to fire, and it is indeed going to be firing at a very, very good target. Right now, those infantry squads are going to have to escape. Also takes out the sandbags that they were building, but maybe also use a little bit of friendly fire. Looks like the friendly fire wasn't really as devastating as it could have been. Right now on the left side, we do have the... oh, interesting. Rail engineers with minesweepers being used to defend the VP from the house. That's an interesting choice. I guess he just didn't have anything else. Or maybe he wanted to build some kind of trap like a mine. Oh, okay. So the Sturm Pioneers were building a mine in a very good spot by the ramp. And the flamethrower detonated the mine and dealt 2 casualties to the Sturm Pioneer squad that was sitting on top of the mine because they were kind of forgotten on the place where they were building that mine. And also, the sniper finishes off the Sturm Pioneer squad, so a pretty bad loss for the Germans. Right now, Guard is going for a Cromwell. Cromwell is an okay choice at this point because on such an open map like this, it can be useful against things like even Jagdpanzers, and especially useful for hunting down enemy artillery pieces like the Stuka. At the same time, it's also going to be fairly useful against enemy infantry because, again, it can just zip around the map from one side to the other, and it can do good damage against enemy infantry. And if he just sees a Reckenwerfer firing at him, he can retreat on the other side of some hedgerow or trees. I am thinking that this infantry squad needs to retreat absolutely pronto. Indeed it does. In the meantime, guards and normal infantry squads managing to take out some of the German troops defending the left side of the map. They're going to be able to recapture the left side VP. Right now there is a triple cap on the go for the Germans, and in fact they need to fort that a little bit because right now they're going to have about 3 minutes of playtime left if they do not remedy the triple cap. Of course, they will be able to do that with the infantry on the left side. Right now, the Cromwell on the right side is also going to have a pretty easy time keeping control of that side for the British player. Guard also managing to push through some infantry, and he's going to build a trench. Very useful, of course, for the infantry sections with the Brenns. Looks like the 3rd infantry section still hasn't really been able to do much. Only 1 kill and not a lot of veterancy under its belt. Cromwell might be able to do some good with the center of the map, but I would have used it on the right side of the map because the center is really the area where it is more likely that the Reckenwerfers are going to be. In fact, we do see the Reckenwerfer getting a few sight shots on that Cromwell. Very good line of sight, of course. Here comes the flare from the Soviet mortar, I'm guessing. Well, no. Oh, I'm guessing it was this mortar. So the flare revealing the position of Reckenwerfer, allowing the Cromwell to escape. Also, there is a Panzer IV trying to chase down the Cromwell. Curious choice, because there might just be a mine over here, or there might be a conscript infantry squad hiding behind some bush, ready to throw a anti-tank grenade on it. In fact, there was an AT gun hidden behind some... well, behind nothing, actually. Just hidden in general. And the Katyusha very nearly escapes a nice round from the 75mm of the Panzer IV. Also on the right side, looks like a weapon was dropped, a Bren, even worse. So infantry section over here losing its Bren to the enemy, not exactly the best thing, as it indeed goes on the Obersoldan. Very, very bad. Already a very dangerous squad with the LMG 34 and its deadly veterancy. it's now going to be much more dangerous. Now the Cromwell is going to have to deal with the squad. Of course, there's also some infantry squads over here that can deal with the Cromwell, like the Volksgrenadiers. Volksgrenadiers are going to have to retreat out of this house, or else are going to go down from the collapse of the building. They do indeed make it out, and here comes a Stuka barrage trying to nail the sniper, maybe? Or trying to nail any enemy infantry getting through the gap to the elevated position on the right side. But it does really nothing, and it misses. Very nice push coming in from the British player, supporting the sniper with his infantry, and using the sniper to deal the actual damage against enemy troops. Here comes a bug. Let's ignore that. Right now, X-Sudden does have some Panzer Fusiliers on the field. He might be going for a Jagdtiger later, but he does have a Schwerpanzer headquarters near his base, so I'm guessing that the Jagdtiger is out of the question, because otherwise he wouldn't have wasted 140 fuel on a Schwerpanzer quarters. He might be going for a Panther, because his friend Neo-Reactionary went for that Panzer IV. Neo-Reactionary might also be using that Panzer IV as a stalling point for a Command Panther or later a King Tiger. We'll see. He doesn't have the third truck up yet, so I don't think that he's going to go for a King Tiger. Here comes a big armor engagement. Well, medium-sized armor engagement for the first time. Interestingly, the Soviet player deploys his troops very near a couple of demo charges, which is definitely dangerous for him. Right now, the Cromwell and the AT guns from the Allied side are doing quite a number on that Panzer IV, and the T-34-76 focusing down the infantry, doing some good damage against them. Right now, the T-34 is going to be trying to, I think, chase down the Stuka. Stuka did fire a round and did quite a bit of damage against the assortment of Allied personnel in the area, so they're going to have to do something about that Stuka quickly. Right now, Guard has picked a doctrine, and that doctrine is Royal Artillery Regiment for the Sexton. I think he definitely wants to counter-battery that Stuka. The Sextons will be quite useful for that. It will also be quite useful to take down the Schwerpanzer headquarters. The other Schwerpanzer quarters is near the field point. Here comes the Stuka barrage on the mortars. Deadly and dangerous. Nothing that these mortars could have done. Takes out both of them, along with the veterancy in them. Right now, also the Cromwell, partially because of a lack of infantry support, is going to be forced to retreat by the Rekenwerfer. Here comes the Sexton. I wonder what the Sexton is going to be firing at. In a little bit of a exposed position, I would retreat as soon as possible. Right now, the Germans still have a bit of a map control advantage, but both sides are having problems actually maintaining the areas that they have actually connected to their base. As you can see, the Allies had a few points here that were cut off. The Germans also have a few points cut off. Right now, both sides are trying to get themselves back under control of the points, and, well, they're succeeding. But as soon as the big engagements start again, as soon as the chaos ensues, I think that both sides are going to have problems again. Saxon is firing on the Schwerpanzer quarters and is missing, so very unfortunate. Right now, the Sexton also is very close to, again, the German lines, so I'm guessing that the Panzer IV over here is going to try to get a bit of a runoff on the Sexton. Right now, there is a 6-pounder anti-tank gun protecting that Sexton along with the Cromwell. Cromwell doing huge amounts of damage to those Panzer Fusiliers and forcing them to retreat, but X-Sun does have 950 manpower available at his disposal to thwart any kind of attempts at bleeding him out. Cromwell being forced to retreat again. These AT guns from both sides are doing very, very, very well at suppressing enemy vehicles and essentially forcing them to be very, very passive. Or rather, should be forcing the sides to be very passive with their vehicles, but they're not doing that. Oh, Stuka barrage takes out one of the demo charges, very nearly takes out the other demo charge as well. Helps the Obersoldaten take out the AT gun, but at the same time, these Obersoldaten have no AT support, and so they're getting completely demolished by the Cromwell and also by a support gun. That looked like a support gun shot. Although I don't really see. I'm guessing that that was a mortar coming in from the left, but it definitely looked like a support gun shot. Its elevation was kind of low for a mortar. Oh well. Right side of the map, quite fortified actually by the Germans. A couple of Volksgrenadiers trying to be a bit of a blocking detachment for any kind of allied push, but of course these two infantry sections at long range might be able to take them out. What's going in the favor of these folks is that they're very, very highly vetted up, so they're going to be able to soak up quite a bit of damage and deal quite a bit of damage in return as well. Right now, it does look like in the center, infantry section and sniper are going to be forced to retreat. Infantry section almost gets taken out by both the 75mm LAG support gun and the 75mm Panzer IV. Panzer IV gets a little bit close to the anti-tank guns and takes quite a few shots, and it is indeed destroyed. Very, very nice. So, big mistake coming in from the reactionary. First big mistake of the game from the Germans, in fact. Losing that Panzer IV, which was indeed racking up some veterancy, is not that good for them. Retaliatory barrage on the AT guns is going to do a little bit of damage, but the AT gun can just simply be repaired and recrewed. In fact, here comes a heavy engineer push from Guard. So going for the anvil tactics instead of the hammer tactics might be looking to get the airburst shells for his concentration barrage. 25 pounds, of course, from the base do receive the benefit of the airburst shells, even for the ability here. And that might be very, very useful at taking out something like a Schwer Panzer headquarters. In fact, it does go down. That's going to be no more Panzer IVs out of neo-reactionary. I think kind of forcing him to go with the King Tiger. Indeed, we do see a mechanized regiment headquarters coming out of him. Here comes a push from the Obersultan, going to be forcing back the units in the soft underbelly of the Allied defenses, but they're going to get almost crushed by the Cromwell. In fact, very, very smartly retreating before that is able to attempt a crushing maneuver. In the meantime, on the left side, it looks like the Germans are doing quite well with their pushing. Katyusha went down. A replacement Katyusha is now firing on the support gun at maximum range through a tree line. Definitely not going to be doing all that much damage. In the meantime, on the right side, to help push through these Volksgrenadiers, a sniper was requisitioned from the British. So 18 kills from that sniper. Still going to be getting more kills because the Germans really aren't focusing at all on countering that sniper, which isn't really the best idea possible because, oh, there goes that Panzer Fusilier squad. Right now, the Germans are definitely thinning out their ranks because the Allies are starting to get some wipes off on them. First the Panzer IV, and now that Panzer Fusilier squad is very, very good. Also taking out the Schwer Panzer is a very good result for the Allies. They are indeed forcing the Germans to buy more replacement for lost units. Indeed, it looks like neo-reactionary is very, very low on units right now. He also lost the support gun, most likely, and had to recrew it. Oh no, probably that was crewed for a while, but definitely it wasn't the original crew on that support gun. He also lost one of the Raketenwerfers, and maybe another one of the Raketenwerfers was stolen by the Allies. No, indeed, might have been destroyed. Or actually, no. Sudden was the one with 2 Raketenwerfers. Okay, so all the Raketenwerfers are still on the Axis control. Right now, Sudden also going for some Obersoldaten, interestingly enough. Going for the Obersoldaten instead of more Panzer Fusiliers. Panzer Fusiliers would have been much more effective at surviving artillery shots. So I would have gone for that. In fact, they would have been also more useful against enemy vehicles with their anti-tank rifle grenade. Yeah, and they would have also been cheaper. And because of their added survivability, they would have been more useful at capturing points. There goes the Cromwell's engine from a mine. Might even hit the second shoe mine. It does have a heavy engineer nearby, which does have some increased repair capabilities. So it might be able to escape. There aren't really all that many German units that can capitalize upon that mine hit on the right side. This is partially because, oh, yeah, X-Sudden going for the Jagdtiger and neo-reactionary going for a King Tiger means that no mobile tanks are available. Once the Panzer IV is taken out, there goes the T-34-76, so quite a decent pickup for the Germans, but at the same time, the Germans are getting triple capped and also artillery struck in the base. Here comes both the Katyusha barrage and the Sexton barrage on the German position near the battle group headquarters of neo-reactionary, and that's going to be dealing huge amounts of damage. Whenever your base is getting artillery, that's something that really, really can hurt, because it is one thing to be artillery, to receive artillery fire in an area when you can just retreat back to your base, safely heal up, and then go back and rebuild your defenses on the field. As long as you have that safe haven, it isn't really that much of a problem. But when the artillery starts to reach your base, then that's really bad, because of course you don't really have a safe haven, and whenever you're trying to retreat, then your units are in danger of getting wiped out by the artillery shots that are falling right onto your headquarters. So that's kind of allowing the allies to regain their footing a little bit, recapture crucial points like the VP on the left side has been under the Allied control for a long, long time, partially because they've been inflicting more casualties on the Germans, and so the Germans had less units to spare to send to the left side of the map. Also partially because Broswar's going for those T-3476s. That's been going very well for him because the T-3476 is quite the cheap unit. You don't really need it in the main engagement. Ooh, Yak Tiger trying to sniper. You don't really need it to help in the main engagement all the time, so you might just use it sometimes to hold the flanks against the enemy flanking units such as infantry squads. Here comes the King Tiger taking the critical from the sniper's critical fire. Also a zeroing artillery being activated, but the King Tiger is pushing up way too far without any kind of support. Right now, Neo-Reactionary doesn't really have any units that are able to support it, because some of his units were still rebuilding and recruiting. And in fact, the King Tiger does take huge amounts of damage from an ambush from these AT guns. Might even be destroyed. Here comes the Katyusha barrage with some infantry trying to indeed destroy its engine. Here comes the T-476 from the flank, and that's going to be, I think, enough to destroy the King Tiger, along with the support of the guards. There is the Yag Tiger trying to take out the T-3476. It is going to be succeeding, but that's not going to be enough. The trade of the T-3476 for the King Tiger is indeed very, very good for the Allies. And right now, that was all the resources that Neo-Reactionary had in the bank. With the Fortifications Doctrine, he also doesn't have the ability to go for something like a Command Panther if he even wanted or had the resources for. So, indeed, right now, Neo-Reactionary is completely out of the game. He does have a few units of manpower at his disposal, but it's not enough because at this point, the Allies have complete control over the map. And really, with their armor superiority, with their superiority in terms of pop cap in general, they're going to have an easy time actually holding that lead in VPs and map control, because it's one thing to have more map control when the enemy has about equal amounts of units as they do, well, as you do, actually. Wait, what? Oh, doesn't want the King Tiger getting salvaged by the Germans. Now that the salvage for vehicles has been adjusted a little bit, the King Tiger is quite valuable in terms of salvage, very nicely using the mine ability from the engineers. That's not something that you get to see every time, because not a lot of people really think about that. It can destroy some cover such as fences. It can also destroy things like, of course, vehicles. I believe it can also do damage to buildings, but very, very little. Not entirely sure on that, so don't quote me on it. Yeah, it is one thing indeed. Going back to that sort of rant on the balance between having points and having units. You may have map control, but the enemy, if they have the same amount of troops in general as you do, you can measure that by pop cap, you can measure that by important units such as vehicles. As long as they have about a similar amount of troops as you do, they can always come back, win some engagements, and get themselves back on their feet. But if you're very much behind, like the Germans are right now, it is much, much harder to come back from a situation when the map control is against you. And right now, the one thing that the Germans have going for them is that the Allies are going for a lot of sort of mediocre medium vehicles. Right now, Guard has been going for a lot of Cromwells. One of them has racked up quite a bit of experience, which is good, of course. But that still doesn't really make it a not Cromwell. The Cromwell, especially once the Ag Tiger has a few good shots, pounding at it, it can... Yeah, it can take quite a bit of damage from the German units. Of course, it can also do quite a bit of damage to the German units, as we can hear right now. I'm not sure what unit went down, but some unit went down. Here comes the Stuka barrage. Takes out an AT gun. Stuka so far has been doing quite well, up to Vet 3 with 44 kills, but it hasn't really been enough because the Allies just had more artillery. While the Germans did have the one artillery piece that did pretty well, the Allies had more artillery that could have been used more frequently in more places around the map, thus sort of being a little bit more of a pressure tool rather than, oh, I'm going to kill some units every once in a while. by having the artillery being supporting the troops on the front a little bit, well, more often, because of course the Germans only had one piece, whereas the Allies had the base artillery from Guard, they had the Sexton from Guard, and they also had the Katyusha from Rosras. So 3 artillery pieces instead of 1 means that more artillery could be deployed more often, support more pushes, thus having a more big impact on the actual engagements, whereas the Germans just had the artillery coming in every once in a while. Right now, Jagdtiger's still trying to do something. Actually, I said that one of the weaknesses that the Allies had was the fact that they had kind of cheapo vehicles. 2 Cromwells, not really the biggest investment ever, and also the T-34-76s from Rosras. Nothing really too big, and nothing that can put too much of an impact on the battlefield. That's actually kind of good for the Allies because the Germans invested quite heavily on the Jagdtiger, so lots of investment in terms of an AT vehicle that wasn't really used on much because the Allies comparatively didn't invest a lot in terms of vehicles. So that was kind of a waste of 280 fuel that could have definitely been used in other ways, whereas the Allies used their infantry, support weapons, and especially the artillery to essentially win the game for them and push up against the vehicles. Still remains to be seen whether or not the Germans can do anything about this, but I don't think they can. Of course, Neo-Reactionary actually quit as well, so nothing really too major is going to be coming out of the AI. And I'm guessing this is just going to be the end of that. Jagdtiger forced into a corner by both artillery and infantry attacks from the Allies. Going to be able to defend against T-34-76 thanks to the help of the Rakan River, but unfortunately the Allied vehicles are just a little bit too many, along with the support of the Allied infantry. Here comes a Overwatch. Interesting. Might be doing some damage against the AI, because the AI may not know how to play against that. A few weapons actually stolen by the Allies, so also LMG-34 in the hands of Rosras. Gonna be even more salt in the wounds of the Germans. Puma from the AI. That's actually not too bad of an idea, because it would have been able to hunt down both the Katyusha and the Sexton, while not being overly vulnerable to the T-34-76. Of course, the Cromwell, with its speed, can match the speed of the Puma. When it's also microed by the AI, it doesn't really manage all that well. It goes down. But it's an interesting choice. I think that Puma could have been a good choice by Neo-Reactionary. Of course, depending on whether or not he had the micro to use the Puma well, that's another point altogether. And there goes the end of the game. Well, in general, I think that the Allies really used their artillery much better than the Germans, but what ended up sort of pulling fruit for them in the end was the infantry as well. Because they did have an infantry superiority pretty much most of the game, except for a slight portion of the mid-game when X-Sun had his Panzer Fusiliers out and Neo-Reactionary had his Obersulan, and then they were destroyed by both artillery and the medium armor by the Allies. So basically the Allies just used everything better. The Germans could have had a few better investments at certain points of the map. For example, I don't really see why X-Sun should have gone for a Obersulan later, or he should have gone for a Jagdtiger. I think that a Panther for him would have been much, much better. Also, Neo-Reactionary, the King Tiger, he could have used them much, much better, I think. And also, in general, he was just a little bit too aggressive with his tanks. He should have been flanking a lot more through the north, using the minesweepers to check against any kind of traps. And in general, trying to avoid the AT guns is really something that you have to do, especially on a map like Minsk Pocket, where you can get essentially funneled into one choke point, especially in the center of the map. And that big line of sight that the AT guns can get in the center can be deadly to any vehicles that you are trying to push through. Also, yeah, pretty much that's the end of that. I want to thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Hope you learned something, and I'll see you soon.